Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Dedicated Dentist, where we probe dentistry 32 reasons why. We already discussed the basics of model analysis or cost analysis. We saw how to calculate the total tooth material or crowding, or how to measure the spacing, curve of speed, depth of palate, or proclination. So this video will be about space analysis. Okay, so here we have the patient's data. All the recordings and measurements have already been recorded. So unfortunately, I do not have cast, but you'll understand it with the help of diagrams. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting off with the indices. First, after doing arch perimeter analysis, there's a discrepancy of 6 mm. So we can here conclude that there is a need to extract first premolar in the upper arch. Second is Ashley Howe's index. Now, this index tells us that this is a borderline case. A borderline case is seen in those patients who have a discrepancy, arch length and tooth material discrepancy within the extraction and non-extraction range. And then there is this uncertainty of taking the decision of extraction. After putting up all the values in the Points analysis formula, it is Points analysis which tells us that the measured value is less than the calculated value, and hence there is a need for expansion in the upper arch. Then Nansen carries analysis for the lower arch. Again, the discrepancy here is 3 mm, and according to the inferences drawn, we can say that there is the need to extract second premolar for the lower arch. Bolton's analysis gives us the discrepancy between maxilla and mandible. So you should put up all the values in the formula. Like I said, you should be well aware with the formulas. And yeah, we're not getting into the detail of calculations. Apply the board mass rule and get the answers. Now we are going to observe the models, the cast we have, and write everything about the molar relation, the transverse plane relation, vertical plane, and sagittal plane. Then we give the diagnosis after looking at the cast as. So this patient is a class 2 division 1 with a spacing in the maxilla of 3 mm that we already analyzed through our models, and crowding of 6 mm in the mandible. So we had a proclination of 10. We put in this in the formula. 10 minus 2 into 2, we get 16 mm. There was no crowding in the maxilla, so no need of correction of crowding, 0. So the total space required in upper arch is 16 mm. Now usually you don't get this 17 mm value or 21 or 22 mm value. If you get 20 mm, 25 mm, then there's something that you are doing wrong. So how do we gain this space of 16 mm in upper arch? Now, we saw in the first page of our chart, we saw that 3 mm of space is already present in maxilla. So we'll utilize that. And we'll extract first premolars, 1, 4 and 2, 4. Now, why first premolars? Where did we get this from? It is from the arch perimeter analysis. Also, the space required is too much. It is about 16 mm. If we'll extract second premolars, there will be a lot of space that will be taken up by the anchor teeth. They will drift into the extraction spaces. Anchor loss will be more with the case of second premolars. So, which is why we are going to extract first premolar here. And the anchor loss with first premolar is 1 by 3. You need to remember this. That is 0.33. So, let's get this calculation. So we require 16 mm space in the maxilla. Also, we have spacing of 3 mm already in the arch. So we'll calculate anchor loss. Now, what is anchor loss? After we have extracted first premolar, we'll have extraction space, and behind them will be the second premolar and the molars. Now, this is the tendency of our tooth. It is natural for tooth to drift mesially or come mesially into the extraction space. So that is, there will be loss of space, and these teeth act like anchors. So that is why this is known as anchor loss. So we'll sum of the value. If we extract 16 mm, we won't get 16 mm space. Much of this space will be lost because of the drifting of the anchor tooth. So that is why we need to calculate. We need to know how much anchor loss will occur. That is, how much space will be lost or taken up by the anchor teeth. So 1 by 3, because we are extracting first premolar, into 16. That is the width of both the premolars, 1, 4 and 2, 4. We calculated that already. 8 mm of 1, 4 and 8 mm of 2, 4. That is 16. So we get 5.33 recurring. That is the amount of anchor loss. That is, out of 16 mm, 5 mm will be lost or taken up by the anchor teeth. So as this 5.3 mm will be taken up by the posteriors, that is second premolar and the molars, we have to subtract it from 16 mm. After extracting both the premolars, 8 plus 8, 16, we got 16 mm, but that will be lost or taken up by the posteriors, 5.3 mm. So 16 minus 5.3 mm, we get 10.7 mm. That is, from 16 mm, we now have 10.7 mm space. But to 10.7 mm will add 3 mm, that is we had some spacing in the upper arch. So 10.7 plus 3 mm we get 13.7 mm. To get to 16 mm we still need 2.3 mm of space, which we can get by interproximal stripping. You need to remember this. Then we can get about 0 to 2.5 mm or even 2 to 4 mm of space by interproximal stripping. This you need to remember. So we require 16 mm of space in the upper arch, but we got 13.7 mm. We need more 2.3 mm of space, which we'll get by slenderization or by interproximal stripping. Thus, this is how we gain 16 mm of space in the maxilla. Okay, so as you can see here, say the patient has proclined incisors, so we need to retract them. So we can achieve that with the help of anchor units. So these anchor units, that is second premolar and the molars, so they will help us in retracting incisors. Reason why, this is given example of a tug of war. You can see here that on the left side, that is on the incisor, there are lean individuals, and on the right side there are individuals who are obese or more stronger than the left side ones. So similarly, these second premolar and the molars, they have large root surface area, that is their anchor value is about 1237 when we sum them up, whereas of the incisors and canines is just 706, and because of the larger surface area they can pull or retract the incisors and canine. And when they do this, there will also be mesial drifting or movement of these anchor. That is, the second premolar and the molars, they will also tip or they will move or drift mesially. So there will always be anchor or anchorage loss. Similarly, space gaining for the mandible or lower arch, there's proclination of 2 mm into 2 for mandible, we get 4 mm. Then for correction of crowding, like we saw, we had 6 mm of crowding in the mandible, so we get 10 mm. So the total space required is 10 mm, that is we need 10 mm of space in mandible. So since it is just 2 mm, and by the Nansen-Keres analysis, we will extract second premolars, 3, 5 and 4, 5. Now let's calculate this. So when we extract second premolars, you can see here in the diagram, there will be 50% movement of these incisors and 50% movement of molar. So thus space closure will occur by 50% movement of anteriors and posterior, anchor loss like I said. So space required here in the mandible is 10 mm. We are going to extract second premolars 3, 5 and 4, 5. Going back to the first page, we saw that 8 mm was the width of 3, 5 and 9 mm was the width of 4, 5. According to Nansen-Keres analysis, we are going to extract second premolar. So there will be anchor loss half into the width of these 3, 5 and 4, 5, 9 plus 8, 17. So divided by half, we'll get 8.5 mm. That is out of 17 mm space. That is we get after extracting premolars. When we will extract 3, 5 and 4, 5, we'll get 17 mm of space. But that from 17 mm, some amount of space will be lost by due to the there will be anchorage loss. So 17 minus 8.5, we'll have only 8.5 mm of space left. So out of 17 mm, 8.5 will be deduced or taken up by the anchor teeth, that is molars. So then we will have only 8.5 mm left, because 17 minus 8.5 gives us 8.5 mm. But we need 10 mm of space in the mandible, while we have 8.5 mm. That means we need more 1.5 mm. So 8.5 plus 1.5, again we'll get this by proximal stripping. We'll get 10 mm. So this is how we achieve 10 mm of space in the mandible. So this is how write the treatment plan. In phase 1, that is pre-orthodontic phase, we'll do scaling, restoration if there are caries any, and we'll extract the premolars. Like I said, first premolars for maxilla, second premolars for mandible, and also we need to do proximal stripping. We already saw that for about a period of 1 to 2 months. Phase 2 will be orthodontic phase, that is we will retract canines after we have extracted the premolars. We'll give helical canine retractor in 3, 3 in maxilla, helical premolar retractor in 4, 4, because we have first premolar intact in our second arch or mandibular arch and we have extracted second premolar. Then we'll give Adams class for retention in the 6, 6 of 22 gauge. And again, for the alignment and retraction of incisors, we'll give labial bow, since there is proclination and we have to retract the incisors. A labial bow on 3 in the maxilla and on 4 in the mandible. And again, we have to give here Adams class. Mesial stop should be present on 3, 3 and 4, 4 to prevent the mesial drifting, and C class 1, 6, 6. Then phase 3 is the retention phase. For the upper arch, we'll give a long label bow and C clasp, and for the lower arch, we'll give bags wrap around the retainer for 12 to 14 months. So after you have written treatment plan, you need to draw like this. For the active components or active parts, say you are giving labial bow for retraction, you are going to draw them with the red to give an idea about the active components, and retainers you can draw them with green, that is the passive parts, that is Adam's glass. And also for retention phases, you are going to draw everything in green or as suggested by your college. So that was all about model analysis and space analysis. Next case we'll discuss in the next video, and that was all about it. Thank you for watching.